That was the most difficult vlog I've ever done. Like, I'm sweating right now. There's so much emotion around this still. Like, I don't even know what all this emotion's for. So in today's episode, we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game because so many messages I receive are from those of you who feel like my life must flow pretty damn easily. And the truth is that in especially these dating dynamics, as I play at my edge of my comfort zone, there are challenging situations that arise. And what I'm going to do today is share with you something really intimate, really personal, which is the first time that Ruby and I had any sort of misalignment, any sort of drama in our relationship. And the last episode you saw that we went out in Vegas, got drunk, and I drunk FaceTime called her at the end of the evening. And there's more to that story. There's more that happened. And we're not in a monogamous container. Both of us are actually looking at creating an open relationship where we could potentially date other people. And neither of us have done that before. So it's outside the comfort zone. So learning how to navigate that is challenging at times. And so during this episode, I'm going to take you through the drama that we had, our first fight, if you want to call it that in any way. It wasn't much of a fight, but yeah, it was an experience, and you could probably hear it in my voice. It's a little uncomfortable for me to share, but I want to turn it into a game for you to think about how you would show up, because it's not about these situations going out of your life. By entering into the personal development journey, these situations will still show up, but it's about how you show up in those situations. That's the value of the self-awareness that you can cultivate. And so what happened was, while out in Vegas, I got a text message from her at 3:40 in the morning saying that she had been with someone else in a clearing conversation, closing down an old relationship. And it was a funny story, but she didn't want to talk about it on the phone. She actually wanted to wait till the next time she saw me. And my body started reacting to that, because our bodies house our emotional experience energetically in us. And so Matt began to give me a bodywork session, and a lot came up. And this is what that looked like.
Yeah, I was messaging with Ruby earlier today, and I had sent her a text message, or a message of some kind at like 9 or 10 at night. I'm like, oh, she's probably asleep. I get a response to my message at 3:47 a.m. And
I know that feeling.
My brain going, what was she doing that she couldn't respond at 10 p.m. but could respond at 3:47 a.m. when she was done with whatever she was doing? And find out that I don't actually know the details, but she messaged me saying how she had an old connection pop up that was ready to be cleared, and the part of me that wants to know what the hell the details are of clearing an old connection at 3:47 in the morning.
When you talk about her, there's a meridian down your back. Here. This. 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 This all flares up.
When I talk about her.
This then goes into this.
she said she had a long day or whatever and a lot of processing. I was like, oh, is it stuff around your ex? Like, let me know if I can support you. She said, not him, actually, blah, blah, blah. This was actually an old relationship that resurfaced out of the blue for clearing. The universe and my intuition made it clear it is not in alignment with what I am holding space for in my life, and I declared my need for completion and space, that I have moved on, and he needs to honor that. He is emotionally intense, and it was challenging.
The energetic that I feel from her is she's clearing as much space as possible for whatever this relationship might be. And by doing that, she needs to clear any tethers or unwanted connections that no longer serve her.
And I may just be the catalyst for her to create space, for her to find her one. Mm-hmm. And I may be about to embark on in a relationship with a woman who is awesome, I really like, and don't want. And that's what we're feeling in my body, is this resistance to things. But where I'm confused, and like Ryan, I'd love your input on this. Like, am I creating a relationship dynamic with her that's really deep, just on autopilot? Because that's all I know. That's what I know how to do. I know how to create connection like that. That's how I live my life. And is there just a difference in how I go about it that could be done? Or the fact that I'm feeling a deep connection is because there's something here.
What does it feel like in your body?
Right now, painful. Really painful. Really painful.
Because you're in resistance to it.
That and your elbow digging into my hip. Those two things.
Take a deep breath in. What does her energy feel like in your body?
Good.
What does good feel like?
Safe.
Safe. What does safe feel like?
Familiar.
What is wrong with safe and familiar? Mm-hmm.
Because it feels like Azria. Safe and familiar is all I've known. And I'm so confused if I'm supposed to be intentionally seeking out something different, or allowing myself to just experience how good it feels to have something that feels so familiar. And I can tell you that when something happens, like getting no response and then a message at 3:47 in the morning, mm-hmm. I want to walk away from the whole thing. I want to walk away because I recognize this is the part of me that was there at 20 and 21 and 22. This is the part of me that would get messages, send text messages, and not like go into spirals if I didn't get responses for 6 hours. And the only way out is through. So I'm just facing off with it. I'm sitting in it and I'm being with it. And like so much of my body just doesn't want to hold it.
And so as you can see, I had a lot come up from a simple text message. A text message that came in at almost 4 a.m. and said, hey, I was with an old relationship, closing it out, and I don't want to talk about it. It's a funny story, but I don't want to talk about it on the phone. I actually just want to, we'll talk about it the next time we're in person. Brought up a lot. Brought up the 18-year-old version of myself that had been cheated on and wounded and wanted to protect his heart and run away. And so I chose to let it be. And then where I went was back to California and met with Ruby. We had a wonderful day together, and I said, hey, what's this funny story? Because I've been thinking about it since you've said it. What's this funny story that you have for me? And she said, I don't really want to talk about it right now. I'd rather just, enjoy each other's company. It's like alarm bells, and like, okay, just sitting in it, waiting until dinner, hours have passed. And I say, okay, now I'd really like the opportunity to discuss what this funny story is that you have. And it turns out that on the day that Matt, Ryan, Hunter, and I went to Las Vegas, Ruby was also in Vegas. This closing of an old relationship that she had wound up being a 24-hour overnight experience to Vegas with this gentleman. That's what she told me. Now I want you to pause the video and take a moment to actually sit with, how would you feel in that situation? Truly, how would you feel knowing that that this person that you've just started dating is in the same city that you're in, but she's there with someone else? How do you feel? How do you feel? And I could feel all the parts of myself that wanted to know more, but wasn't sure if that's because it was the insecure part of me, because she didn't violate any of our agreements. Our agreement is, if you have sex with someone else, let the other person know. That's the agreement. So because she didn't violate any of that, I wasn't sure if it was even within my, if I had permission to ask for details. I didn't want her to feel bad about it, but I didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until I talked to Matt and Ryan, and they both reflected to me, hey, that's kind of weird. It's a little weird to say that you're closing out an old relationship and then go spend 24 hours overnight in Vegas with the gentleman. And so what did we do? We said, okay, that gave me permission to say, yeah, I don't feel fully comfortable with that. That is strange, because that's not how it was communicated to me. And so we got on a FaceTime call, and Matt actually asked her a bunch of very direct questions. And this is what that looked like afterwards. We just got done having a FaceTime conversation with Ruby, where Matt asked some pretty direct questions that demanded essentially a level of authenticity and vulnerability and transparency that surrounded the fact that Ruby went with another guy to Vegas while we were in Vegas and didn't tell me until we got back. And she said it was all for the closing, right? Like the closing and the clearing of it. If you wanted to close, why would you agree to an overnight 24-hour adventure with someone?
Yeah. If you know 100% that you want the closure, if that's truly your intended positive outcome for a meeting, then you're not going to want to spend 24 hours with this individual. There's something else that's present there.
And that was one of the questions that he asked straight up. Was there a part of you that was still curious about the energetic that was there? And she said yes. And so when someone says, yeah, I wanted to have this clearing, and then they tell me that there was a 24-hour overnight sleep in the same bed experience in Vegas, there's a disconnect. Honor your truth. I'll honor my truth, and it will either align or it won't.
If her truest truth right now, which she's reflected, is that there is no energetic there. She closed the container. She has the hindsight now to recognize that there's nothing there, and she's energetically, it doesn't matter. Whether they cuddled or she blew him, there's no difference because of the outcome. But what you're holding on to is, and where I see the discomfort, and I fully understand it, is not the deceit. There wasn't deceit. It's just what level of transparency is she offering to you within the context of that weekend?
Well, because it becomes something where now I get to decide, I'm making an evaluation of the level of transparency that she has. And now it's, do I have to ask these really specific questions? Do we hide things in gray areas? I called her and let her know, yo, I didn't do anything. You're on my mind. I'm going home alone. I volunteered that because I knew that at some level that would provide ease to her system. I'm not getting that on the other end. when she says, I didn't have sex with him and we slept in the same bed, what's in the gray area now? Like, if someone's never been cheated on, if someone has only had really beautiful relationships that have all ended well, then there's no fear of the gray area. The gray area is there by choice, and then we project into it based on our past experiences. And so really, people who have more wounding that they're projecting into gray areas, it's even more imperative for them to communicate away the gray areas. Because we work on the wounding, we work on the traumas, we work on being higher vibe versions of ourselves in relationship. And what solidifies that pattern, that new override in our mind, is experience. We go and we get into a relationship and it's beautiful, it ends well, we don't get cheated on, and then we go, oh, okay, that's what I thought was possible, and it is. And it becomes more and more and more ingrained, it becomes embodied in us. But as long as we have the traumas and the wounds, and we're not communicating at a high level, so therefore there's a ton of gray area, that gray area will be filled with insecurity and fear. That's what most people are living in their relationships because of that very reason. They're not working on the traumas and they're not finding clear communication. And so their relationship is 75% gray area filled with trauma and insecurity. There's a huge part of me that wants to run. There's a huge part of me that feels like it would be easier to just cut it off and not deal with it. And I'm choosing not to do that because that would only be coming from fear. I can try and convince myself it's the loving choice for myself, but very easily I can tell that it's coming from fear. And so I'm not going to choose that because we choose love. That's what we do all day, every day. And so are you following along? Are you playing this game of pausing the video and thinking about how you would feel as more information reveals itself? Because it started as a text message saying, hey, I have this really funny story that I only want to tell you in person at 4 a.m. And then when I met with her, it became this thing that she didn't want to talk about, and I had to pull it out of her. And the funny story is actually that she went and spent 24 hours with this old flame overnight in Las Vegas on the day that I was there, and that it didn't feel good to her, that it actually felt out of her integrity. She was thinking about me the entire time, wanting to message me, but not doing that. And then from there, because of direct questions from my friend, she reveals that they slept in the same bed. And she says, but we didn't have sex. I made it very clear what I was and was not available for. And so now I'm in this space where I feel like because of her fear of hurting my feelings, because of her fear of damaging our relationship, she is intentionally leaving gray area, intentionally actually not speaking the full truth, which is putting me in this spiral. And I made the decision that I was going to take matters into my own hands and no longer think that it was coming from fear and just addressing it. Straight up, let's get on a call and let's talk about what actually happened so we can be fully clear, because at this point it's too messy. And so I asked her, what happened? What is happening in the gray area of we didn't have sex, but everything else in between? Like, what happened there? And it turns out something did. I just had a follow-up conversation with Ruby around everything that transpired with how she communicated to me around this like gray zone area. She kissed him. I don't know. I didn't ask, is it makeout or whatever? I assume it was a makeout session of some kind. For her, obviously, making out with someone that she wants closure with, that she's not having a good time with, is not a big deal. I've heard this from so many women, by the way.
The number of women that I've had conversations with who have been in that situation where they're closing situations with their ex, but will hook up with them one last time and be like, yeah, I'm good. Or like, actually, I'm going to keep this open and see what happens.
That's totally fine. I'm not upset about her kissing someone else. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is literally in this moment, she says, yeah, we kissed. Now, because of our communication, I go, fooling around in bed is a kiss. Do you know what I mean? Fooling around, feeling on each other, like really hot and heavy, hands in places. Like that falls under the category of kiss now because of the gray area of how she's communicated. You wanted to go with him, you wanted to see the connection, and you were disingenuous about it. How it was presented to me, the whole thing. And then when had a conversation, you left a bunch of gray area because the truth is you kissed him and you didn't, whatever kiss means, you didn't want to say that. You didn't volunteer that information. I can't lean into her right now. I also can't expect her to have the same level of communication that Asri and I have had. And that's a thing that's really important for us as conscious men. We get to recognize that most women have not been in relationships with men who can hold the space of authentic, transparent communication in a safe way. We get to hold a safe space for communication while still honoring our truth and not wavering from what is the level at which we get to be communicated to. And this woman that I'm speaking to is incredible, incredibly conscious, incredibly aware, incredibly open to growing and expanding, very committed to a mission on this planet, and still not communicating and not used to communicating at that level. It would feel so fucking good in my system to meet someone who has a whole depth of communication and understanding and relationship that I haven't even experienced, that pulls me forward into a greater version of myself in relationship. And I recognize that this conversation is doing that in a different way, but I would love to be mentored. I would love to meet a woman who can mentor me in something, some way, shape, or form. Call me.
And so as you can see, I can have a sense of humor about it, right? As it's laughter is medicine, and we can have a sense of humor about it and still recognize that it's a serious thing to be presented as, oh, here's this funny story. Let's talk about it in person because I closed an old relationship, to, oh, I went to Vegas for 24 hours, slept in the same bed, and we made out. The difference, the vast difference between those two things is the gray area. And because of my own past wounding, I fill in the gray area with all of these stories of how I can't trust, and my heart is going to be hurting as a result of these things. And at the end of the day, what this is all about is safety. This is about how safe we feel in relationship. It doesn't matter if it's a 9-year relationship or a 9-day relationship. Ruby did not feel fully safe to tell me the entirety of the truth. From her past wounding and her past experiences of dating men who haven't been able to hold it, haven't been safe spaces for her to tell her truth and not fear the backlash. And me, through my past experiences, feeling like because she was leaving out really key points of the story, that I no longer felt safe in my conversations with her. And because neither of us felt fully safe, it led to a disconnect in our communication that translated into hurt feelings. It translated into tears. It translated into me wanting to run as fast and as far as I possibly could. And here's the thing, we both sat in that. I allowed myself to feel that. I did it without judgment. I said to her multiple times, this has nothing to do with what you did. I don't actually care that you made out with this gentleman. That's not what this is about. What I care about is feeling like now, every time you tell me something, I'm going to be wondering if it's the full truth or if something's being hidden. And that doesn't create a sense of safety for me. And here's the thing, through that communication and being honest with each other, we've arrived at a really great place. We're good. We are good. We have communicated through this. We're stronger than ever. And we're still navigating what it means to date other people. In a future episode, you'll see I go to New York to go on dates with other people. And yet, can we both continue to hold space for each other, to grow, and to feel good about that? And this is part of that process. I have her permission to be sharing this because we're in agreement that the reason that she did it is because she was scared of harming what we were creating. And so how many of you can relate to that? How many of you can relate to not feeling like you can tell your partner or tell people you're dating the full truth of who you are and what you want out of fear of how they'll react? And how many of you feel like you're not getting the full truth from someone you're in relationship with because they're hiding something, whether that's because they're worried of hurting your feelings or because it's something else? Do you trust? If we're going to heal the dynamics between men and women on this planet, we get to create safe spaces for each other to show up fully as ourselves. And so I encourage you to find your own way of being with this that looks like being willing to sit in the discomfort and be honest about what's coming up and to communicate through the gray areas. If there are gray areas and you feel comfortable with them, great, awesome. They can continue to exist. If they make you feel uncomfortable, get clear about why and take some action to allow yourself the gentleness, the compassion for yourself, to have those gray areas filled in with actual information through heartfelt and honest, transparent communication. And you will arrive at deeper levels of intimacy and trust, and you might even realize that the gray areas aren't as scary as they once were. That's what I'm doing. And this is what that's looked like for me. Thank you for doing it in your own life. Thank you for showing up and listening and going on this game. As always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. Thank you so much for watching this and taking the time out of your day to commit to the art of choosing love. And it is my hope that by showing you my heart, showing you the vulnerable, authentic, real sides of what I'm going through in my life, it will inspire you to share more of your heart and your authenticity and your unique voice with the world. And we want this to be a growing tribe, and in order for that to happen, we want you. So please subscribe, share this with your loved ones, engage in the comments with others who are on the same journey as you of using love as the compass. You are always, in all ways, seen, heard, and loved.